You're listening to Community Voice PHL, an award-winning talk show that informs, engages, and inspires. And thanks again for tuning in to another episode of Community Voice PHL Talk Show. Community Voice is the award-winning talk show that highlights the value-based programs and services that people are doing all across the tri-state area and across the nation. We bring you informing interviews with engaging people who inspire you to build caring and prosperous communities. So once again, thanks for tuning in to Community Voice PHL, a show that informs, engages, and inspires on WPPM LP Philadelphia 106.5. I'm always excited to be on the air because we always have exciting guests, but I'm also excited to be on the air with my colleague in here, Nick Best. He's always energetic, always got the insightful wisdom notes at the end of our show. Sometimes he challenges me to do that as well, but we're always having a good time. So what's up, Nick? How's it going, buddy?
I'm going great. Great to be here as always.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Hey, give us a little update on your event. I know maybe some of our listeners maybe floated through and I saw on Instagram. I wasn't able to make it, so I do apologize about that. But give us an update, man. It seemed like it was a great event, man.
Best show on earth, or one of them. I will say it was one of the best shows on earth.
I'm not just saying
that because I was a participant, but even as somebody who was just showing up to see what was going on, I'm like, yo, the vibes, the music, just the collective was beautiful.
Now, was that the first time at that venue, or
no? It's there every time.
Okay, I mean that wasn't your first time there either.
No.
Okay,
Second.
okay. So it's going to be a follow up to that, or what's the?
Well, there's always one or two throughout the year. So if you miss it, you can always catch it again, and they'll post updates on their social media. But for me, I'm now an alumni, so it's one and done.
One and done. You like Kentucky, huh? That's cool. So what was your takeaway from it? Like, what surprised you, and what was like a wow moment for you there?
Just the amount of support that I received. Like, for a long time, I actually stopped sharing my work publicly because I'm like, nobody cares about this, and it's for me anyway.
Yeah.
But just seeing the amount of people that related to it and enjoyed seeing what I have to offer was just beautiful.
That's it. Well, you know, we talked about this a couple episodes ago. When you get to that point where you share your art because you really realize the value and worth of it, but it surprised you a little bit, though, huh?
I'm still processing.
Yeah. And again, follow him on Ingenious Nick at on Instagram. You'll see some of his artwork that was up there. It was some stuff, man. I was like, wow, dude, you got skills, man.
Thank you.
You got skills, you know. Not that I doubt you or anything, but when you see the whole portfolio of someone's work, you're like, wow, it was more than what I thought, man. So I was like really irked that I missed out on it, seeing all that you had. And I'm sure it was other creatives there as well, right?
Absolutely. Other beautiful, wonderful, creative people in there.
Yeah. So talking about beautiful and creative and wonderful people, we got an exciting guest who fits all those categories. What do we got on the show today, Nick?
We have one of the most energetic, just balls of light that I've ever met in my entire life. And I'm not just saying that, like, if you were to see this person, it doesn't even feel right calling her a person. She's so much more than that.
She's the essence and embodiment and all that stuff.
Essence and embodiment of all that. Today we have Paige Joffe.
Wow. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. I'm really humbled, especially for that to be coming from you. And thank you for having me on the show. It's an honor. I've been excited for this and overjoyed to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you on. We're definitely excited to have you on. I know for myself, I'm just intrigued about, you know, anyone who has that type of energy and then lays it into the field of law and then the yoga. How do you balance and mix those two together? It's just like maybe they shouldn't even be together.
No, I mean, I think it's been my path, right? And I think putting them together has really come to become such a synergy. They work together beautifully, and who would have ever imagined them to work together beautifully? But I started in business school as a business major. My entire family, they're entrepreneurs. And from there, I, worked a few years and went to law school. And then I worked a few years in the legal profession. And You grind.
Yeah.
You grind.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if anyone's seen Suits. It's real.
Oh yeah,
It's
yeah.
real.
The
Like,
TV show, you mean?
Yeah, the TV
wow.
show.
Okay.
There was a morning that I didn't leave the office till 5:30 a.m.
That was on a half day, huh?
And like that case in particular didn't feel like work because I was connected to the client and their purpose, and they were good people. And that was like 20% of my cases. But the other 80% of my cases, and I was doing complex commercial litigation, which is just like business, when businesses sue each other for money, basically.
Yeah.
And I was on the defense in that case. And the client it was a beautiful case. Anyway, the cases that I wasn't connected to with my heart would drain me. And that's when I came back to yoga. I was like, I didn't feel aligned with my purpose. I didn't feel, and my mom, my mom is just an incredible person. So giving credit to her and my dad, I have an amazing family. But she gave me a yoga mat at 12 years old. So I'd been practicing yoga since 12 years old. And it was in December when I got back into my practice, and I was like, oh my gosh. And from that practice, my mentor, Gabby, shout out Gabby, I had asked her, where she did her yoga teacher training. And then I did yoga teacher training, and it has all come together to align with law, because the issue was in my everyday life that I've gotten to law to help people. And 80% of the time, I didn't really feel connected. My heart didn't feel connected to helping people. And then things shifted, like maybe like a year ago. But more recently, I found my niche, which is like really helping people in a time of struggle, in when people get terminated or laid off from their positions. And I can offer them, it's not a loss, it's an alignment. That's one of my favorite things to say. It's not. It isn't. This is it's part of your plan.
Right. Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know that when they're laid off, you're a lot of the time you're given the severance agreement. And it'll say offering you, let's just say 2 weeks of pay and signed by this date. So people are looking at the money and they're like, oh, all I have to do to get this money is sign.
Yep.
And then they sign.
Yeah, want that money.
But they don't know
Right.
that's a contract. And they don't know that they're the ones that have the leverage. They're the ones that you could get I just got my client 10 times more money than they were offered, and they didn't even know.
Wow.
Just like, so my biggest thing is like, that is a negotiable document. You have the power. You're signing away your legal rights. Let's say there's a wrongful termination claim.
Right.
Let's say there's a harassment claim. Let's say you were discriminated against for your race. Let's say you were discriminated against for your sexual orientation. And you don't even know. Because the problem in law, a lot of the time, is, we know what we know. We don't know what we don't know. And that's the thing. You don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And that's why talking to someone, anyone, an attorney before you sign a legal document is so important. I just want to spread that.
Yeah, and I can definitely see that passion behind that. And it's like there's so much, as the expression goes, money left on the table. And there's also so much knowledge out there that should be shared. And so we're excited to have you on to talk about that, because I know Nick, when he first shared with me that you were going to be on the show, he was like, yeah, we got to have her on. Yeah.
Thank you, Nick.
Absolutely. So talk to me about, I know yoga ties into this, right? Because you're somebody that empowers people. In empowerment, you see a lot of self-esteem issues, I'm assuming.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I'm like, that also ties into not wanting to speak up for yourself. So if you're working for these big corporations and these companies, they can kind of treat you however they want to treat you. And you're just like, all right, whatever. If you got to fire me, I don't like this job anyway. I'm out. And they're quick to sign that paper because they don't like it. So what are some of the ways that you got over some personal self-esteem issues, if you don't mind sharing?
Oh, no, not at all. I was like, I'm one of, millions of American children whose parents got divorced. And, during that divorce, there was like a shift in roles, and, in that and a shift in power, and you feel like you don't have any control. And at an early age, I developed an eating disorder, and I almost died.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I was, my family tried to help me, and I really give a shout out to my dad he was always like, my entire family was, my dad especially was just like always my cheerleader, always like gave me the right support that I needed to believe in myself, because I didn't believe in myself. And when you have someone externally who believes in you and who knows that you're going to survive, and you can feel that they know that you're going to survive, even if you don't, that's powerful. So I like to be that for other people.
That's beautiful. And that's how you know that you're really aligned with the work and you enjoy what you do. It's not just a paycheck for you. Like, it's really about building up others.
And the only way to get over those self-esteem issues is to feel them, feel the emotions. So often we avoid with workaholism. We avoid with sex. We avoid with drugs. We avoid with drinking. We avoid with planning the next vacation, with getting into the next relationship. Avoidance is everywhere, and it's rampant. And it is the easiest way not to feel.
So, and then avoidance, that comes to that space of avoidance of confrontation too, in terms of, like you were mentioning, when you get the severance letter. Because sometimes, listen, I'm just using it as an extreme example. Sometimes you get a severance letter and it says $2.5 million. You could know that, oh no, that's just pennies. But me, Jeff, thinking, oh, I'm going to sign this. Because one, I don't want to go through confrontation, and two, that's a lot of money that I ain't got, that I now have. So talk about that dynamics of not having the wherewithal to be combative in that space, with also the idea of you're telling them, Paige, to say no to some money. How do you walk that line? Because I know you do, and I know you do it well.
For sure. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, it's all about finding your voice, and we have been conditioned to forget our voice, to forget how to speak up, especially in underrepresented communities. Women. We have been taught to be shameful of using our voice, and it is a fine line. It's practice. It's practice, and it's also, again, having that support team behind you, talking to, I would first talk to an attorney, because to make sure that you're not, you don't want to talk to too many people about your case, because it's a case. Right, you don't want to talk to anyone about your case until you talk to an attorney. You just don't want to talk to an attorney first.
Paige put that out there, like, listen.
Confidentiality. Talk to an attorney first. They'll tell you who and who you can't talk to. Husband, wife, there's an exception. But when you have a support system behind you, you feel more grounded. You feel more validated to use your voice. And I think, for me, in showing people, in being the voice behind them, I'm able to express with not only like the history of my client settlements, but in just the value of a case, which is pretty much, if you have to do research, but you can find the value of, a harassment case, a discrimination case, like an average in the area, to let them know that this is real. And also, we're so used to being gaslit, to be told that this isn't an issue. What are you talking? Like, our friends will even laugh things off, but inside, you're the only person who knows if you've been violated, if you've been walked on, if you've been talked to in a wrong way, And so often we look outside of ourselves to ask for confirmation. Am I wrong here? No, if your heart tells you you're wrong, it's wrong. And if your heart tells you that you were talked to in X way, you were. Stand in that. Stand in your power. And I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, for sure. So standing in your power can be challenging. It can be challenging because, listen, there's a lot of you know what? I'm gonna put it out there like this. I wish I knew you a long time ago and a couple of other jobs. Because I know for sure I left some money on the table in jobs that I left before, especially one Fortune 500 company I left. And people know about that story, so it's no real big secret. But anyway, I was like, wow, if I didn't know you, I would have been able to find my voice. So speaking of finding your voice, getting to that space, though, yoga, as Nick was mentioning, ties into finding your voice. But where do you see in your scope of work where people are just still imbalanced in that space, where they can be vocal in one area, but then when it comes to money, they get quiet, right? They can, go out there and advocate and speak up for everything. But then when it says, well, you can get more, no, I'm cool with this. I'll put it this way. Do you think it's a matter of ethnicity in terms of if there are more people of color who don't speak up as opposed to, those who are not melanated?
So I think what this comes to, yes and no, but the reason behind the yes is more complex than, and this is what I'm writing. I'm actually writing a book on this.
Ooh, we got an author in the house.
It's multidimensional, but it goes with feeling. It goes hand in hand with feeling, being able to communicate your value. Money is the same frequency as love.
Right.
It is. If you believe you're deserving of this money, they are parallel with each other. If you and yes, it varies, but when people don't believe that they deserve the money, or let's say I give you a gift. Oh no, I cannot accept this. Why can't you accept this? Because you don't believe you deserve it deep down inside. And why don't you believe you deserve it deep down inside? Because your value of yourself, it's the self-love. I'm not talking about love externally. It's self-love. And that's what it's directly correlated with. And oftentimes in underrepresented communities, we have maybe single family homes where mom is working all the time. And the child doesn't get the love or comfort that they need, not because the mom doesn't want to give that love, because they do so desperately, but they don't have the resources. They can't afford the childcare. They can't afford to be with the child because they must work to feed their child, to feed themselves. And because of that, love is diminished. And when love is diminished, I mean, look, the reason why we have so many violent crimes in underprivileged areas is directly correlated with love, with lack of love. That's all it is.
Yeah, and it's layered. It's
so layered.
Yeah, and I like the way you broke that down, how that, the tangles of it all. And because in our society, we don't look at love as the true essence of what it is. We think of the romanticization of it, you know what I mean? But there's more to it. Like you mentioned, the self-love, that's important when we talk about that, right?
Absolutely. So, I feel like a lot of companies kind of train us to be submissive too. 100%. Like in the work environment, you're not trained to speak up, because once you do, you're going to be made an example. Like, oh, we got to get this guy out of here. He's a leader. He's going to stir up the herd.
All intentional.
I remember I never had been fired, but I had been laid off. And I feel like that was one of the reasons why. I'm looking at my coworkers. I'm like, yo, y'all don't see this treatment that's going on? Like, they got you working hours that you're not getting paid for and just doing all this extra work.
That's a whole claim.
That's a claim right there. Right.
Yeah.
That's a good segue.
Like, look.
Now give me an example. Like, when should you sign and take the package versus when shouldn't you?
I'm sorry, I have to give you the stereotypical lawyer answer. It depends.
Okay.
It all depends. There's so many variables that you really, I've had, you don't know what you don't know. And every single person, every single job, there are so many variables that you can't even anticipate until you talk. Like, sometimes it takes 2 hours for me to sometimes it takes weeks. Like, there'll be things that'll come out. Oh, you didn't tell me that. Like, they'll tell me a fact and they'll be like, oh, I didn't think that was important. I was like, that's your whole that's a whole other case. So I tell my
so pause right there. Does that frustrate you as a lawyer?
I think it's humorous. It's a learning lesson. It's like, okay, got to add this to the stockpile of questions to ask. Like, is there anything?
All right. So go ahead. You was wrapping up the question. Nick was saying, is there a right or wrong time to sign? When you were saying
talk to the wrong time to sign is if you don't talk to an attorney first.
Okay.
Talk to an attorney. Oftentimes the consultations are free. Mine aren't, but I do provide free consultations if it's need based. I'm not going to turn anyone away. Like, if you need a consultation, I'm there. Because I want to help people.
Yeah. So in your space of expertise, is there like a situation where, it's something you won't be able to take on in that area? Or is it, you're able to help just about anybody who's going through that type of severance employment challenge?
Yeah. So I represent like a couple employers too.
Mm-hmm.
So like anytime that there's small, there would never be an issue because the employers that I represent are like really good companies, really good. And not good. It's just like they lead with their hearts. They lead with kindness, right? And that's the key. You're never going to get in trouble as a company if you lead with kindness and value your people. And I even had one case where there was nothing we could do because they handled everything perfectly. She worked there for 6 years, but she had nothing bad to say about the company. She loved it. There was nothing to do. But I'm sorry, your question.
No.
I got a little sidetracked.
That's okay. Your excitement, your energy, your information is just overwhelming. Now, I was just asking, is there like a situation ever where there, are cases that you wouldn't be able to handle? Because it fell in line with actually the way you answered it, because there was nothing you could do. So that was a situation where company was right by the employee. The employee, didn't have any extra gripe. So you actually did answer the question, because that was the question in that context. But you get excited, and
I do get excited.
Just blows over. I love it. So we're coming up close to the end of the show, and of course, like I shared with you, Paige, and I talked to you earlier today, it's going to go quicker than you thought. And I know Nick may still have some follow-ups.
I feel like we tackled a lot of things. I do want to add this in. So this whole topic comes with discernment too, because you can't be at your job wilding and be like, hey, yo, Paige, they fired me. That's crazy. Like, they just gonna let me off like that? I know I stole a couple products, but they didn't know that. They just profiled me. Like, come on, bro.
That is for sure. It comes with that disclaimer. You cannot go out there acting all wild and then expecting to say, hey, who was that guest y'all had on that could help me out and get me? Oh, here's the thing though. And I know you primarily, I don't want to say primarily, but I believe you primarily deal with severances. Is there any work you do with unemployment claims? Does that fall into the same category or no?
The appeals for unemployment?
Yes. Like if an employer denies it. Yeah. So talk a little bit about that, because I know that may be a little bit more prevalent in some geographical areas of the city than others.
For sure. You can always appeal.
Yeah.
And oftentimes when you appeal, you win. It's not guaranteed, but I mean, it goes the same thing with like insurance. Like I had, my car window was broken. They said they weren't going to cover it. I appealed. They covered it plus more, like more than it was perfect. Everything that if you don't appeal, you don't know. And I will help I'll help add as much detail that is relevant in order for your appeal to get, again, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So you want to add everything. And oftentimes there are things that you wouldn't even think to add. It's important.
I like that. Add as much detail to make it relevant. I like that.
And I can be very verbose, and it really benefits me.
And is there any difference in gender in terms of those who don't speak up and those you often see get taken advantage in that space of not getting the severance that they deserve in any cases like that?
No, I mean, it's pretty much even split. The types of claims that I've witnessed are different. Like I have a lot of disability claims where people are, made fun of for their disabilities. Those are men. Sexual harassment tends to be female, but I have a reverse sexual harassment case right now, which is, a man was a man.
Yeah.
So really, no.
Okay. And I ask because sometimes, as you mentioned earlier in the show, women get disenfranchised in situations more so than men. And I didn't know if that was the case with the severance, because they could be looking at it like, she's a woman, I'll just give her whatever and she get out my face. As opposed to an African-American man, be like, oh, I better give him something good so he don't come back and get in my face. So
no, it seems like everyone's treated pretty poorly across.
Everybody's treated horrible across the board.
And there are some companies where, I mean, I haven't seen like a beautiful severance package yet, but I've heard that there are some companies.
Is there a beautiful severance package?
I heard through one of my colleagues.
She heard rumor,
but he was an attorney. He was a general counsel in-house, or in-house counsel for a very large company, and his severance was really beautiful. But I think they knew. They knew their audience.
Well, yeah. Do employers know their audience, or do the employers know their audience, or do they just have a process?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
It depends.
No, I
think
get it.
They have a process and I think they also have a track record.
Yeah.
Right? Of people just signing because signed by X date. People do.
Right. That's what I mean. Just the process.
Mhm.
You know, like Jeff got fired. Okay, that's the same.
Yeah.
Same like Nick got fired. They both signed a letter. They weren't worried about it. Jeff
Mhm.
signed. Nick signed. So
Mhm.
that just becomes a
It
process.
does.
You know, and
Both.
if me or Nick doesn't say anything, then here comes Paige. Paige get fired, and it's the same process. So that's why I asked if it is it a process, and sometimes it just seems like you're saying it depends.
I think it is.
Yeah.
I think it's a process.
Yeah.
Right. Mhm.
And that's where you here to change the world, right? To make sure that process
Yes.
get realigned with the person,
Yes.
because sometimes there's processes that never aligns with the person, and that's where then the punishment comes in.
Correct.
But that's where you come and correct it. So if you want to get corrected in your severance pay unemployment, talk to me. So cool. Yeah, hey, that's right. Got to get you a commercial. So we are about to wind up the show, but we do want to give our viewers and listeners a chance to understand how they can contact you. Maybe, you know, get your support in any type of situation that they're going through. So is there any social media platform, website that you can share with our viewers and listeners before we wrap up?
Yes, absolutely. My website is www.your, spelled out, YOUR, severance, SEVERANCE, lawyer, LAWYER.com. And my email is Paige, PAIGE, at yourseverancelawyer.com.
So there you go. And that's how you can get in contact with Paige. And we'll have all that information on the show notes as well. So in case you missed it, you will be able to have that for you to kind of further refer to. But we definitely enjoy having you on the show. We definitely will have you back because we didn't even talk about your yoga expertise. I heard you were a grand wizard. I don't know what's the title. I don't know, Nick. A grand expert
I
yoga.
call her a yoga magician.
Yoga magician.
Wow,
There you go.
thank
Yoga
you.
magician. I heard you was yoga magician. We didn't even talk about that. We
Wow.
teased a little bit about that in terms of how it relates to law. But there is a level of self-care that you are also an expert at that we would want to have you come on the show and kind of give a little bit of background about that as well, so that we can understand the wholeness of the person, not just creating your voice, but creating your center, which creates your life and creates your destiny. We want to have you to talk about that going forward in the future. So as you wrap up, Nick, any final words, buddy?
Final words. I would say really tap into what makes you feel true to yourself. Because as I was saying earlier, these companies, they train you to be submissive and they train you to not use your voice and speak up. And you go into there, you know, you're just there for a paycheck, maybe. But when you're out of those spaces, you really should realign with what makes you true to your character so you can present authenticity out into the world.
There you go.
Thank you, Paige, for
Snaps.
what you do.
Yeah. Snaps and snaps. So as we always do, we want to leave with a positive note, which Nick just dropped. I want to transform his positive note into a question. What is the best version of yourself you're trying to be, and how do you become that? So send us an email to communityvoicephl@gmail.com, as you have in times past. Reply to that question, and we'll read a few of those on the air, and you know, let you know that we're listening to your emails, and let you know that we want your responses to our questions that go out, so we can support and get the encouragement from our listeners and viewers. So what will make you better in those spaces, as Nick was alluding to, when you find your voice and find your center, find your joy? What will you do to get there? Paige just gave some great information about that, how you can find your voice. And make sure you contact her, because again, we'll have that information in the show notes about how you can get that support. And it may just be a conversation that maybe you might be going through something at your job, and you're, you know, at that place where you're about to separate as employer employee, and you just need a little guidance. Paige can talk to you for a few minutes and give you some insights on how you should handle those situations. And trust and believe, and I'll let Paige comment on this real quick. It's not always going to be about the money. It's going to be about a little bit more than that. So when you reach out to Paige, she'll share with you about how it can be not just about the money. It could be a little bit more. We got 30 seconds, Paige. Chime in on that real quick.
Absolutely. It's about your self-worth, and it's about knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And knowledge is power.
And that's what we want you to have. We want you to have that power to go forward, to be confident and well-centered. So I'm Jeff Jones. That's my partner, Nick Best. Had our lovely Gage, Paige Joffe on here. So remember, if it's happening in your community, we need to hear your voice. Peace, and we are out.
Peace.